the decorum was gone, sort of this level of basic decency evaporated, and, you know, just complete falsehoods.
I mean, I think the world needs a great CNN, so I'll do everything I can to help that organization. No one's been harder on Trump than me.
So
Conservative guy once said to me, what you don't get about Trump is we don't like him either. We don't like him, but he's all that stands between us and madness. People nod their head in agreement. If he pulls statistics and events out of his ass completely. It's just, he doesn't care. They fact check it, he doesn't care. But to me, the way you deal with Trump is this.
You won't believe the enormous tantrum Trump just had, oh boy. The former man was thoroughly humiliated by Bill Maher and Katie Couric, and the orange man was clearly pissed up. The extent of his meltdown was so great that you would have thought someone had told him his Mar-a-Lago property was being converted into a haven for refugees. Two powerful figures in the media, Bill Maher and Katie Couric, have a conversation on Club Random. The subject of discussion, none other than Donald J. Trump, the elephant in the room with an orange hue. Never one to hold back, Maher dove straight in, recalling Trump's now famous CNN town hall where the audience appeared to be completely enamored with the outgoing president. With his trademark sneer firmly in place, Maher joked, "Remember that town hall he had on CNN about 6 months ago? The audience loved it. I mean, you can't deny it." Ever the journalist Couric, however, was not going to let that pass without verifying the information. She cleverly noted that the town hall's crowd was stacked with Trump's supporters, which may have contributed to the intense devotion in evidence.
So dramatically, Bill, when Donald Trump arrived on the scene.
Absolutely.
Because,
yes, of course.
you know, twist or shape facts to meet their, you know, to match their ideology or help persuade people that they're right.
With a sharp retort, Maher showed no mercy as he said, "Well, then you gotta get a better audience person, obviously. Yeah, that's like the person who handed the gun to Alec Baldwin. You gotta get good people in all these positions." Still, Trump's humiliation didn't end there. It's a classic case of whiplash people, as Maher emphasized the stark contrast between the town hall love fest and the panel discussion that followed, in which a group of 6 talking heads went on to dump on him and call him a liar. You may find yourself being hauled through the muck one moment and flying high on a wave of applause the next. The most biting moment, though, was perhaps when Maher said how frustrated he was with how the media was covering Trump. "I'm all in on the negative. No one's been harder on Trump than me, but I get it, and I'm bored with it. There's a different way to do this, I think. Hurts. You know you've reached a new low when even your sharpest critics are yawning at your antics." As Maher and Couric dug into the cultural reasons that have converted so many folks into ardent Trump supporters, the discussion veered toward the philosophical. "My kid's coming home from school and he thinks he's a racist. He's 5. What have you been telling him?" Maher joked as he bemoaned the current state of affairs. This question gets at the root of the division that has swept the country in recent years. But Maher's analysis of the previous president's strategy may have been the most scathing criticism of Trump. Maher even shared an anecdote to illustrate his point, recalling a conversation between Trump and Billy Bush where Bush confronted Trump about his exaggerated claims about The Apprentice's rating. The biggest mistake people make about Trump is anyone ever thinking he planned anything. It's all just whatever at the very moment comes to him that will make people nod their head in agreement. What is Trump's response? "You just say it, Billy. You just say it. People believe it." This statement offers a frightening window into the thoughts of a man who doesn't appear to care much about the truth. The Donald was furious, his normally orange visage taking on a red hue more fitting for his ties.
The murder rate is about 40% higher than it was. It's not, it's 2%. You know, it just doesn't matter. You just say it, Billy. You just say it. People believe it. Yeah, he said that thing to Billy Bush that time when Billy Bush confronted him. And he said, "You know, Donald, you keep saying The Apprentice is #1.
He wasn't going to stand for it when Maher and Couric dared to mock him on national television. He responded angrily on Twitter, using his little fingers in typical Trump fashion. "I was killing it at CNN town hall, and the fake news media couldn't handle it. Sad." However, did he truly destroy it, or was he merely eliminating the last of his credibility? When Trump is criticized, his standard response is to attack, refute, and deflect. Regardless of the truth, he'll utter anything comes into his toupee-topped mind. He's found success with this tactic in the past, but how long can he maintain the facade? Maher noted that it's difficult to ignore the fervor of Trump's base, given how much they enjoyed his town hall appearance. No matter how absurd or offensive his words are, they are met with acclamation and cheering. They appear to be under some kind of enchantment, failing to recognize the emperor's new attire for what it is: a cheap, ill-fitting outfit full of fabrications and trickery.
Yes, for media, it was an impossible choice.
Right?
For a place like CNN, I have total sympathy with them for that. That this is just the other side of normal, left, right, Republican, Democrat.
However, even the most devoted fans of Trump cannot deny that he's being criticized harshly by all quarters. Maher and Couric are merely the most recent in a long line of politicians, media figures, and common citizens to criticize Trump for his flagrant disdain for the truth, his incapacity, and his lies. Trump's refusal to accept accountability for his conduct is demonstrated once again by his response to the town hall criticism. He points the finger at everyone and everything but himself, including the Democrats and the media. Over the past 4 years, this pattern has been all too familiar, and the American people are becoming weary of it. It's nothing new for Bill Maher and Katie Couric to criticize Trump's ignorance. Since forever ago, Maher has been making fun of the Orange Menace and has never missed an opportunity to tear him to pieces. Couric, too, she has been by him, illuminating every falsehood that comes out of his mouth. Together, these two have been a formidable force of truth, body slamming Trump with unvarnished truths.
It was stacked with Trump supporters.
Well, they said Republicans and independents. That's what they said. If they did, that's on CNN.
I agree. I think it is on CNN, and the vetting process
was... Well, then you got to get a better audience person.
When it comes to the Donald, Maher has never held back, not to mention the time he likened Trump's administration to a turd in the nation's punch bowl. Ouch, he's called him everything from a whiny little bitch to a malignant narcissist. Maher has no problem going straight at the target, and Trump has long been his favorite target. And Couric is no slouch. Pressing him on his lies and half-truths, she has cooked Trump like a cheap steak. Who could forget the day she made him blush and stutter during a live fact check on television, or when she criticized him for using divisive language and dangerous rhetoric? With surgical accuracy, Couric has cut through Trump's BS like a journalistic ninja. However, despite their greatest attempts, Maher and Couric are perplexed by the influence Trump continues to have over his followers. Maher acknowledged the cultural gulf and the US versus them mentality that sustained Trump's base of support, saying, "No one's been harder on Trump than me, but I get it, and I'm bored with it."
Still vote for him, because what they see on the other side to them is even more dangerous. He's 5. What have you been telling him? You know, my son thinks maybe he's not a boy. Closer to home. My kid is coming home from school and he thinks he's a racist.
There's a different way to do this, I think. Couric, too, she observes the part the media plays in fanning the flames by contrasting Trump's popularity with unfavorable panels. Maher and Couric have been debating this complicated matter for years. They are aware that Trump is a superb manipulator and a Pied Piper who is pushing his supporters into danger. However, they also understand that the issue cannot be resolved by just brushing off his supporters. It's a fine line to tread, a balancing act between exposing Trump's deceit and appreciating the anxieties and annoyances of those who continue to support him. Thus, Maher and Couric continue their valiant efforts, use their positions to hold Trump responsible and reveal his deceit. Even though they are aware that the fight is difficult, they are not giving up, since the truth is ultimately more important than everything else. Moreover...
So how do you find someone who represents Trump voters, who feel his policy, to your point...
This crazy shit every day in the news, and it's always that kind of stuff from the left. And the stuff from the right, of course, is even more dangerous.
Maher and Couric will be there to expose Trump's deceit, one zinger at a time, as long as he continues to speak. However, Trump's humiliation at the hands of Couric and Maher is merely the beginning. The man had more embarrassing moments in public than an inebriated uncle at a wedding. More jokes have been directed at Trump than a clown at a roast, from his terrible presidency to his antics after leaving the White House. Trump's past is replete with instances of public humiliation that would make most people want to curl up into a ball and hide for all time. However, the Donald appears to thrive on it, akin to a fungus growing in dung. Shall we take a trip down memory lane? Obama once gave him such a hard time at the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner that his orange spray tan almost melted off. What about the time he boasted that he had accomplished more than virtually any government and the entire UN General Assembly just broke out into laughter? Traditional. But there's still more. Do you recall the 2016 presidential debates where he acted like a whiny infant while Hillary Clinton chastised him for his treatment of women? Or the town hall in 2020 when not even his carefully chosen crowd turned against him? It seems like every time Trump speaks in public, he's practically pleading to be made fun of and laughed at. A self-described stable genius should be able to keep a low profile, but instead of doing so, he simply continues returning for more abuse, like to a masochistic Energizer bunny. In a larger sense, this is all part of Trump's charade to present himself as a strong, successful, and unfailing individual. Thus, when he becomes publicly owned in this way, it quickly undermines his well-constructed facade before his attorneys can assert no collusion. This version of the traditional story of the Naked Emperor is about a blithering idiot who has a poor comb-over and a tendency to self-sabotage. Sometimes all it takes to show Trump for the fool he is to call him out on his absurdities, as Maher and Couric so skillfully illustrated. However, Trump isn't one to allow a small setback like becoming a worldwide laughingstock bring him down. In fact, it appears that he enjoys playing the clown prince of American politics. He resembles the Joker, minus the makeup and competence, and the Donald has never shied away from taking jabs at Bill Maher and Katie Couric, but their most recent roasting session might have finally put him over the line. The ramifications of this embarrassing interaction may pose a significant threat to Trump's political prospects. After another piercing of his ephemeral skin, the self-described stable genius is losing popularity more quickly than Rudy Giuliani during a press conference. Even Trump's devoted supporters must acknowledge that their beloved leader is becoming an embarrassment to watch every day. The emperor's new clothes, or lack thereof, have been revealed by Maher and Couric's scathing criticism, and the situation isn't pleasant. The rats are jumping off the left and right side of the once mighty MAGA movement, which is beginning to resemble a sinking ship. But wait a minute, people, let's keep in mind that Trump is a man with more lives than a trust fund cat before we begin writing his political obituary. He's weathered innumerable scandals, impeachments, and bad hair days, and he consistently manages to emerge triumphant. Furthermore, Trump's followers view him as the last line of defense against the madness of the left, as Maher himself noted. They might not agree with everything he says or does, but they'll pay a heavy price if they allow people like Maher and Couric to undermine him. Even the most devoted supporters of Trump must concede that the man is beginning to appear rather insane. His public performances are beginning to resemble an awful improv comedy show, and his Twitter tirades are become more regular and insane. He might wind up in the political history dustbin with such greats as Michael Dukakis and Howard Dean if he doesn't get his act together soon. What does all of this signify for Trump's prospects in politics then? Though it's difficult to determine for sure, he has his job cut out for him. He must quickly figure out how to win back the faith and trust of the American people. Should things go wrong, he might be subjected to even greater humiliation in the upcoming months and years.
Class resentment is a lot and anti-intellectualism and elitism is what is driving many of these anti-establishment, which are Trump voters, right?
Half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it.
The political landscape has been rocked by Bill Maher and Katie Couric's epic roast of Donald Trump, prompting many to question what consequences the former president may face. Trump, who never takes criticism well, is probably fuming with wrath and deciding what to do next. However, what does his political future hold in the wake of this public humiliation? To begin with, it's obvious that Trump's ego has suffered greatly. The man who used to boast on national television that he was a very stable genius is now the target of ridicule. Trump's vulnerability were made clear by Maher and Couric's scathing remarks, and it's difficult to see him recovering from this without doing some major damage control. However, Trump's supporters are renowned for being devoted, so it's unclear if this most recent scandal will actually hurt him. Many of Trump's fans see him as a safeguard against what they see as severe left-wing cultural issues, as Maher noted. They might interpret the remarks made by Maher and Couric as simply another instance of the liberal media elite's attempts to undermine their supporter. However, this public humiliation may further polarize centrist voters who are already unimpressed with Trump's antics. In the event that he stays a national laughingstock, it may become more difficult for him to win over swing votes in subsequent elections. Furthermore, it could be problematic for his political goals if members of his own party begin to turn away from him. Trump is, of course, nothing if not erratic. He has repeatedly shown that he is capable of handling crises and issues that would bring down the majority of politicians. But after being so severely roasted by two of the biggest figures in the industry, even he must be feeling the heat. It's also important to note that Maher and Couric's remarks allude to a more profound gulf in American culture. Many on the left are advocating for social and cultural changes that some find offensive or even dangerous. As Maher noted, Trump has positioned himself as a champion of traditional values, therefore criticism of him could be interpreted by his followers as criticism of their way of life. Overall, the political ramifications of this most recent humiliation of Trump are still being felt. Will this be the last straw that breaks the camel's back, or will the Teflon Don just have another setback? Time will tell. However, one thing is certain, there will be no shortage of material for the late-night comedy circuit to work with in the near future. But let's be honest, during their exchange, Bill Maher and Katie Couric completely destroyed Trump, leaving both the audience and the former president inconsolable.
He just says whatever is at the top of his head.
Yeah.
I think the biggest mistake about people make about Trump is anyone ever thinking he planned anything. With him, it's not even policy, because you can't even talk about policy with Trump because he never really has one.
Ever the humorist, Maher couldn't help but make fun of Trump's sloppy handling of the facts by joking, he just says whatever is at the top of his head. The true kicker, though, Maher mentioned Trump's notorious just say it advice to Billy Bush, even though The Apprentice is obviously not the best show, merely stating, "You just say it, Billy, you just say it, people believe it," Maher echoed, perfectly capturing Trump's gloating arrogance. Couric joined in on the fun, sardonically remarking that the CNN panel of know-it-alls appeared to be utterly disconnected from the response of the public to Trump's town hall. With their hilarious chemistry on full show, Maher and Couric continued to drop jaw-dropping jokes throughout the evening. They bashed away at Trump's lackluster screening procedure, drawing a comparison between it and the individual who gave Alec Baldwin the loaded gun. The sharp-witted exchange between the dynamic two was a masterclass in political humor, combining sharp wit with serious observation. They didn't hesitate to call Trump on his phone so that everyone could hear it. One thing was evident as the laughter and cheers filled the studio. The Maher-Couric tag team outwitted Trump in a contest of wits, leaving the former president completely embarrassed and the crowd tremendously delighted.